Welcome to Rank 1 Pro. In this video, we're going to be going over some of the basics of navigating your Rank 1 Pro account, including the dashboard, the student management, the schedules, and some other important areas in the interface. When you log into your Rank 1 Pro account for the first time, you're going to be taken to your main dashboard. And depending on whether you've put any data into your account or not, you may or may not see any content in these widget areas. Now here I already have some data, some events, and some messages which have been sent, and so you can see some of those in my widgets. But if your dashboard is empty, no worries. We're about to put some data in and you'll be able to see it on the dashboard. If you look on your left, you'll notice that you have your main link back to your dashboard at any time. You have your messenger, your student management section, which includes things like your master list, your attendance trackers, and electronic forms. And you have a schedules section, which includes your calendars, practice game schedulers, and the venues that you manage. You then have a transportation section and a camps and commerce section. Then down here you have your reports, your tutorials, and your admin area, which will allow you to make some changes to your account and to your school information. Depending on the level of access your user has, you may or may not see some of these options on the menu. Beginning with your main dashboard view, here you'll have a quick overview of some important information, such as upcoming events, recent messages, recent activity, your compliance status, any pending forms that you may have for compliance for your students, any open injuries you might have in your student health section, and then a convenient mini calendar which will show you your month view at a glance. Looking at our left menu, starting on the top, is your messenger. And from here, you can send direct messages, group messages, or announcements to anyone inside of your Rank 1 portal. Let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to compose a message and choose the school, the sport, the level, and the team that I would like to send the message to. And I'm going to search for all players and parents. As I search, you'll notice that there are two tabs here, one for students and one for parents. And you'll also notice that some people are not able to be checked in this case, and no message can be sent to them. This would be because they do not have any contact information in their profile. So if you go over and put contact information in their profile, you would be able to send them a message from this messenger. Now, you'll notice that by default, everyone is checked. That matches this search. So if I only wanted to send this to one or two people, I could check and uncheck all, and then I could individually select the people I want to send it to. And because there are two tabs, be sure to check your currently selected area here, because if you have all of your parents selected but only one student, you may think you only have one person on the message, but in reality, you'll notice that we have 7 of 18 currently selected, and that is because we didn't go and make any changes to our parent tab. But once you have all the people that you want on the message, you can hit next. And then you can choose the type of message you'd like to send. There are 3 types of messages you can send. A direct message is one that could be sent to more than one recipient. However, the responses will be sent directly back to you, so no one else in the group will see them. A group message is a message in which anyone can reply to the group and everyone will see the reply. Whereas an announcement is a direct message that is not allowed to be replied to, so users cannot respond. Let's just go ahead and send a group message in this case. Now you'll notice I have my recipients up here, and if I notice that I have more than I thought or less than I thought, I can edit at this point and I can go back and change who's included on this message. But let's just say that this is a message about the game next week. And my message is going to say something like, there has been a schedule change. Now, once I send this to the group, I am allowing replies in this case because it's a group message. I can get responses back on this and everyone in the group will see that. I can attach something here if I wanted with any of the file types listed, but I'm not going to in this case. I'll just go ahead and send. Now that's been sent, if I go back over to my messages, you'll notice that that message is in my sent messages right here. It'll show up in my inbox again if someone replies to it. And it'll also show up on my dashboard if a reply comes through. You can easily sort through your messages by looking in your mailbox filters at direct, group, all, injury, daily treatment, schedule alert, or whatever works for you. But you can always default back to your all on your message inboxes and see any replies that have been sent to you recently. The student management section is where you're going to find your master list. This is where you'll do a lot of your work in terms of looking at your student profiles, making changes, adding injuries, and also under the student management section is your daily treatments and your roster building, as well as electronic forms. We won't go through all the features here, but let's quickly take a look at navigating your master list. Once you're here in the master list, there are a couple of things to be aware of. Here at the top is your drop-down for selecting your schools, sport, level, and grade. And once you do this, you can then show all the students associated with that search. So if I want to show just my high school students, I can do that, but I can also narrow it down by only those that are in football, and I can go further to only those that are in a certain grade in football, and I can hit show, and we'll see those students available. But if this happens to be an empty list because you are just starting your account, you can go here to add new student and start adding the students for your rosters. Now you'll notice that it says here when entering a student manually, you must use the student ID number associated by the district. And this is important to not use ID numbers which are incorrect, or otherwise the linking for that student won't work properly. But we can go here and we can add in the student information and link them to the proper school, including all of the relevant information for their account. A note here is that if you want to send them messages through the Rank 1 Messenger, you'll need to make sure that there is information to send messages to. So you'll want to have a phone number and an email whenever possible. Once you've added a few students to your school and you can see them here, you can go ahead and start building a roster. Let's say we want to build a roster for our baseball team. We can go to the roster builder. We can select the school that we want. In fact, we could select more than one school if we wanted, but in this case, we're just going to do one. I'm going to select baseball, varsity, and the team. And then I'm going to hit view roster. Now there's nobody on this team right now. So let's hit build roster. And what I'm going to see is all the students available to add to this roster. And let's say that we had a couple we wanted to put on our baseball team. Let's go ahead and put Jay on there, and we'll just add 2 or 3 more. And you'll get a confirmation that they were added to the roster. So now let's view roster again. And what you'll see is now we have 4 people on our baseball team. Not quite enough for a good game, but it's a start. And using this method, you can add any student to any roster at any time. And while you're doing that, if you wanted to send a message to these students to let them know that they are now officially on the baseball roster, you could do that very easily right here. When you hit send message, it will auto-populate the roster you selected, and then you can see the students who are available to receive the message you're about to send. Now let's move back to the master list and talk a little bit about the interface. You'll also notice that there are a few different colors on your master list. If I go back and I just search only for the high school, let's do that. You'll notice that I see green, red, and I see yellow. Green generally indicates that this student is eligible to participate, while red indicates that they are not, usually due to an injury or some other reason. Yellow is a color that means that student's profile has been flagged. And you'll notice that there is actually a flag icon here that I can roll over, and it will give me a pop-up tooltip that will tell me why this has been flagged. You can make all these changes inside your student profile, so let's go ahead and look at one of these. So I'm going over here to look at Jay Evans. I've got his profile information, and I can edit that if I'd like. And I can see that the profile has been flagged here with a note that says grades at risk. Now, a profile can be flagged for any reason, and you can put whatever you'd like there. So if I hit edit, I can remove the flag from this profile if I want, or I can change what this flag says. So I can just put some test information here and then save that. And now when I am back on my master list, I will see that flag with the new information. For right now, though, I'm going to remove that because let's say Jay is doing better and he no longer is at risk because of grades. So I'll remove the flag from this student profile. Now let me go back over to my master list and look again at the high school. And you'll see that we now have Jay Evans here and he is showing up in green as eligible. So let's click again into the student profile. You'll notice that the tabs here at the top navigate us through forms, injuries, files, equipment, SOAP notes, award trackers, and performance trackers, and these may vary depending on the account that you're in. But it's good to note that you have a forms section here where you can go and you can approve forms, as well as the injury section where you can view injury history or add a new injury. If you're coming from an older version of Rank 1, there may be injuries which were added in a different version of the software, which can be viewed but not edited in the Rank 1 Pro software. However, if there's nothing here, you can always add an injury easily with the Add New Injury button. And let's just assume that Jay got hurt. So by default, when adding an injury, there's a date and a time which defaults to now, which you can choose if you want. And let's just say that in this case, I wasn't sure what time the injury occurred. I just know it happened at some point today. Now let's check where the injury occurred, and let's just say it occurred during a home game. It occurred while he was playing football. And we're going to specify what type of surface it occurred on. So in this case, we're just going to say it occurred on natural grass. You may also want to enter the injury cause and mechanism. And of course, here you can enter a note to your coach or a medical note. You can even send a note to the guardian if you prefer. You will have to activate this, and then you will have to choose if you want to allow replies to that note or not. If you know what the estimated return to play date is, you can add that in optionally here, as well as a follow-up plan to note if they need to see a physician or if it is as needed. Down in the injury section, I can choose the body side, and I can choose things like the injury nature, type, the observation, the palpation, and more. It's worth noting here that I can edit the fields that are available to me, and I'm going to do that now. Before I start making any selections, let's go to Edit Fields and look at what I already have available. So on observation, I can choose which of the options I'd like to see. Some of them may not be relevant to my organization and the way we do things, so I want to remove them to make things more efficient. But I'm going to leave these here, and then I'm going to add in one more thing, which is change in gait, which might be relevant with a foot injury. Now, injury nature, I'm going to leave these for because they're all for critical. And then injury type, I'm going to look at what I have available. I'm going to go ahead and add in sublation, tendinitis to make sure that that's available. And on palpation, I'm going to add in proximal pain. Now I can do this for any field that I have here. So I'm going to add a few more things in on my initial treatment options, knowing that I can remove these at any time. I'm just going to check a few things here, and then I'll hit done. So now I'm going to say that this was the right, its lower extremities, and it's the right heel. I'm going to say that it's an acute injury, and the abrasion type, I'm going to call it a sprain. Now on the observation, I will say I saw a change in gait, and that there was swelling and warmth on the site. Now I'm going to go down here to initial treatment and just note that I used an ice pack. You'll notice that in treatments, these are actually sorted by quantity. The reason for this is because these are associated with costs and value. So when you make a selection here, this is actually noted on the back end in the database to keep track of how much of any item you use. For example, if you are doing manual therapy, but you're doing it for longer than 15 minutes, you can add in as many increments of this as you'd like. This helps track the value on the back end so that when you generate reports, it shows the value of the services that you're providing and the treatments that you've done throughout your year. After that, I can add a special test if I'd like. I can note if this student was referred to a physician and where, and also if the injury required surgery, which in this case, it did not. I can note that the injury is still open. If not, I could note the close date, but I'm going to say the student is not able to participate. and then I'm going to save this injury. You should get a confirmation notice that it has been saved properly, and now you can return to that student in the master list, and you'll be able to view the details of that injury. You'll also notice that now this student is showing as red on the master list because they are no longer eligible to participate. So I'm going to go in now and review that injury here in my injury tab. You'll notice that I put the lower extremities heel injury and that I can edit it or I can remove it if I want. I can also export it as an Excel or PDF document. But let's go into this injury and look at it. And let's add a treatment. So I'm going to go here to treatment and I'm going to click the add treatment button, and it will default to the date and time that I triggered this treatment, and it'll also autofill the sport and the injury that it's tied to. That's really handy and saves me some time, but let me go ahead and say my current assessment is looking better. I'm not going to put a note to coach or medical notes in this case. I'm just going to go down, and if I had any notes for modalities or therapeutic exercises, I could put those here. I'm going to go ahead and say again that this was right, lower extremities, and that this was heel. And we could say that we used foam roll, or we used heat or ice cold pack. I'm just going to mark a foam roll for our purposes in this video and save the treatment. Now you'll notice that that treatment has been saved. And next time I do a treatment, I can go in here and I can add another treatment. But for right now, let's say that this student is good to go and the treatments have been working great. I'm actually going to go down to the bottom and I'm going to say, yes, this student is able to participate, and no, this injury is not open. Save this injury. Changes are successful. And now when I go back and I view this student on my master list, I should see that he's coming up green. Now, if I want to put a slight restriction on Jay, what I can do is go in here and edit. I'm going to flag his profile and say, be careful with the left foot. Recent heel injury. I can leave that on his profile for now. And then when another coach or trainer comes in and they see Jay on the master list, they'll see that there is a flag for Jay, and that'll just make them aware of the fact that they should be careful on that foot. In addition to just entering injuries, we can also enter our daily treatments. You can do that by going over to the daily treatment page. And even if there is no injury associated, you can enter a treatment for a patient. Now here we can see that we recently had a treatment for Jay Evans. And as you make new treatments, you'll see them here on your dashboard for your daily treatment page. But let's say that we didn't have one of those. We could enter the student that we want, and then we could go and look at Jay Evans' profile. And from here, we could enter a treatment independent of any sort of injury. However, we could always tie this treatment to an injury if we wanted. So if we wanted to tie it to that heel injury, we can hit autofill, and then that will autofill our fields to match that injury. Another important area in the student management section is your electronic forms. And here you can select the school, and in this case, I'll just select all school, and then select the form that you want to view. And what I'm looking for is forms that are pending approval. I'm going to hit search. I don't see any forms pending approval for either of these statuses, but let me switch to all. So now if I search here, I'll see that I actually do have a student which had this form and it's already been approved. But in the case that it wouldn't be, we could go in here and move the approval status to denied, and then we could give a note for why that was. I'm going to hit save, and we should be able to see that. So now if I sort by denied, I'll also find that same form there. This way you can easily go through and you can approve forms, you can mark the date that they're approved from, and you can make changes to the forms for each student who's awaiting approval. Beneath your student management section, you'll see your schedules section. And if you click on the main dashboard for schedules, you can see a quick look at a list view of upcoming events. And you can easily filter them by games, non-games practices, or you can select the date range you'd like to look at. You'll also notice that your mini calendar is conveniently here as well, so that you can quickly see what's coming up and where it falls on the calendar. Let's go down to our main calendar. Here under our main calendar, you'll see that I'm viewing my activities, and you can see that I already have some things set up. But let's go ahead and make a new event, assuming that we didn't have anything on our calendar. What I'm going to do is hit Add Event, and then I'm going to select the school, the sport, and then the level that is for, along with the team. I'm actually going to choose that this will be a home game, so I don't need to select the venue. But if I chose away game, then I would need to select from the venues that I've created in my Manage Venues section, which we'll get to in a minute. I'm going to note my opponent team as the Bulldogs. I'm going to set the start date for the 25th, and I'm going to say that we're going to start around 5 p.m. Now you'll notice that a couple of things happened. When I input my opponent team, my schedule description automatically changed to include the opponent team in the name. This is so that it easily generates the description for you and you don't have to custom type it unless you want to. It also automatically set my time for the event to an hour, so when I put in my start time, my end time defaulted to an hour after. But I'm actually going to make it 2. I'm not going to put any special notes in, but I will note that the game type is an exhibition game. And then I'm going to save and add to schedule. So when I do that, you'll notice that I do have a new event which came up, which is for the Bulldogs. If I go and look at that, I can see that is 5 to 7 p.m. and it's saved all my details. Now you can change those at any time, and you can also choose whether you want your calendar for these events to be public or not. Let's go and look at that real quick. Let's go to my schedules. I'm going to pick my football, varsity, and my team. I'm going to show that schedule. Now you'll notice that the schedule status is public so that everyone can see the schedule. But if I didn't want this appearing for other people, I could click and make this a private schedule. If I do that, what you'll notice is when I go to my dashboard, the events for that schedule do not appear on the dashboard. However, if I go back in and I select my football team again, and now make that a public schedule, you'll see that when I go back to my dashboard, those events are populating properly. You can choose whether or not you want it to be a private or a public schedule. You can also schedule more than one activity at a time. You can go down to your game scheduler, and using this functionality, you can schedule multiple games for multiple dates quickly and easily, and then save those into your schedule. You can also sync schedules, and through this, you can share calendar links so that people can view the schedules that you've created from this calendar. And then here under Manage Venues, you can choose what venues you want to have for your away venues. So if there is another school gymnasium or another field you'd like to add, you can always add a new away venue, give it a name, an address, and then when you are choosing your away venues, this will be a pre-populated option in the dropdown. At some point after you've added all these students and created all these activities and had a very successful season, you may want to generate some reports. There are many kinds of reports that you can generate from the reports section, and we won't go through them all in this video. But quickly, let's take a look at the kind of reporting that you can do. You can report on your games and activities. You can do that by school, sport, level, and team, and even by facility if you choose. And then you can choose the columns you'd like to show on your reports. You can also go to the Athlete Report Generator, and from here you can generate reports on your students, including reports related to injuries and forms. You'll notice that down here there is now a new tab for options related to the selection I've made here. So if I select injury, I can go down here and I can add some fields related to injuries. From your reports section, you can do things like reporting from messaging, electronic rosters, and attendance as well. There are so many other things you can do inside of your Rank 1 dashboard, and we don't have time to cover them all in this video. But we have a wealth of knowledge in our tutorials and Q&A sections on the website. But if you have any questions about how to use Rank 1 Pro, feel free to reach out to our support staff and we'd be happy to help.